Hello students. So here we are just going to discuss some questions. So just see the first question. There are certain physical quantities having no dimensions but still having units. Sub question. State whether the statement is true or false. Justify your answer with an example. Okay. And the second sub question, check the correctness of equation v square is equal to u square plus 2 ax using dimension analysis. So just going to the first sub question, it is said that whether the above statement is true or false. So any certain physical quantities having no dimension but still having units. Yes, it is true. Certain physical quantities are there. They don't have any dimension but still they have units. In the case of a dimension analysis, you know that whenever a ratio terms are coming, there is no dimension. For example, such certain physical quantities like specific gravity, angle, strain, these are dimensionless quantities. But the question, just read the above statement, that is a certain physical quantities having no dimension but still having units. So the question is, it is not dimensionless quantities. The question is that the physical quantity should have dimension, have no dimension as well as, but it should have units. So out of the above things, angle is one such thing where angle can be expressed in two ways, that is angle and solid angle. This angle is expressed in radians, solid angle is expressed in steradians. So here the angle and solid angle have units, but they don't have any particular dimension. Why? Because they are number. There's still a number there. So that means if I'm taking an angle, it is 2 pi. Angle means it is a number there. It's a fixed quantity. So there is no unit, but it is expressing in radians. Same as that of solid angle. You know that solid angle, when it is in a 3-dimensional case, this angle is expressed as solid angle. That is also expressed as steradians, but it is not having any particular dimension. Okay, so the first thing is clear. I hope so. Now the second sub question. Check the correctness of the equation v square is equal to u square plus 2ax using dimension analysis. So I'm just writing down the equation v square is equal to u square plus 2as. So here, sum of the question, instead of u square, it will be vo or v0. Okay, so don't think that it's different quantities. Both are same. That is v square. V is final velocity, u is the initial velocity, a is acceleration, s is the displacement. You all know that thing. So in order to check the correctness of the equation, what you want to do? Take each term separately and find out their dimension. Each term separately. That is, first you want to take v square, then you want to take u square, and then you want to take 2as. We are not taking constant, so you want to take the dimension of as and just check that whether all the three are same. Then if it is same, your dimension will be correct. For example, we are just taking, what is dimension of v? V is what? Velocity. So velocity dimension is what? L t raised to minus 1. U is what? Initial velocity. So here also it is velocity. So L t raised to minus 1. Now the third one, we don't want to take the constant, so I'm just taking as. So what is the dimension of acceleration? L t raised to minus 1. S equal to L. So simply you will get what? L square t raised to minus, sorry, here acceleration L t raised to minus 2. So L square t raised to minus 2. Okay, now put these equations, these dimensional formulas in the above equation. So you will get L t raised to minus 1 whole square, L t raised to minus 1 whole square plus, I'm not taking the constant, L square t raised to minus 2. So square is there, just multiply, you will get L square t raised to minus 2. Here also L square t raised to minus 2 plus L square t raised to minus 2. Now just see all the three dimension, L square t raised to minus 2, here also L square t raised to minus 2 and L square t raised to minus 1 minus 2. So you can see all the three dimension are same, so they are dimensionally correct. One confusion can happen or come here, that is plus sign, so we want to take the addition there. No, you don't want to take the addition there. Just see whether all the three terms, just take the terms separately, find out the dimension. If they are same, your statement or your equation is dimensionally correct. So that's it. So we are just moving on to the second question. Give answer. Substance which can be stretched to a great extent with small stress is called, such substances are called elastomers. So don't forget, elastomers are substances which can be stretched to a great extent with small stress. It means with a small stress, it can be stretched to a great extent. Such substances are known as elastomers. Okay. So this first question, sub question, second one. Bulk modulus of water is 2 into 10 raised to 9 Newton per meter square. You want to find out the compressibility. Compressibility is given by the term letter K. So compressibility is nothing but it is a reciprocal of bulk modulus. If you are just finding out the bulk modulus, you know the bulk modulus 2 into 10 raised to 9 Newton per meter square. So by doing that, you will get 1 by 2, that is 0.5 into 10 raised to minus 9 unit meter square per Newton. Meter square per Newton, that is 0.5 into 10 raised to minus 9 meter square per Newton. Now this is the answer of the second sub question. Now the third one. Steel or rubber, which is more elastic? Steel or rubber, which is more elastic? You will think that it will be the rubber. Why? Because with our common eyes in day-to-day life, we are just more familiar with the rubber. That's why the answer that will come in your mind will be rubber, but it is not true. Steel is more elastic than rubber. Why? Because as you give a deforming force and you release that deforming force, it will come back to its original position within less time. So that the stress, the deforming force or the restoring force acting there will be more there. So it will come back to its original position very fast than rubber. So we can say that steel is more elastic than rubber. So these are the answer of first and second. Now the third question. Obtain an expression for orbital velocity of a satellite at a height h from the surface of Earth. So you want to find out an expression for orbital velocity there. The second one is that the orbital velocity of satellite of mass m is VO or V0. What will be the orbital velocity of another satellite of mass 2m in the same orbit? So here you want to find out an expression for the orbital velocity. Just imagine that this is the orbit of a satellite. Okay. So this is a satellite of mass small m. And this satellite is orbiting around, just see our Earth. Like that. Just imagine that this is Earth and the satellite is orbiting around this thing. Now you want to find out the expression. You know that in order to orbit in a circular motion, obviously there will be what? Centripetal force. And centripetal force is given by mv square by r. mv square by r. But just imagine that here, this is the center of the earth. This distance is r and this distance is h. Why? Because it is already given. It is orbiting, the satellite is orbiting at a height h, right? At a height h. So that the radius is r and height is h. So that's it. So here the centripetal force is equal to mv square by r, but here what is the r? Actual distance here. Actual distance is the radius of the earth plus the height. So r plus h. R plus h. And this centripetal is provided by, centripetal force is provided by whom? The gravitational force. So this gravitational force will be equal to the centripetal force, so that they will orbit in a circular orbit. That means gravitational force is given by G m m, that is small m. Small m is the mass of the satellite, by r plus h the whole square. So gmm by r square. This is a familiar equation, but here r is actually what? R plus h, that is radius plus height of the height at which the satellite is placed. So r plus h the whole square. So from here you just do some mathematical thing, that is r plus h cancel, r plus h cancel. This one small m here, one small m here. This velocity is actually what? Orbital velocity. So you got an equation that is VO square is equal to Gm by r plus h, there. R plus h, VO square is equal to Gm by r plus h. Okay, from here VO is equal to what? Root Gm by r plus h. More precisely, we can do one more thing. I am just multiplying it with, okay, just see, this is one equation. Okay, this equation is also valid. More precisely, we can do one more thing. V square is equal to root Gm by r plus h. Okay, I am multiplying it with one r square, dividing it with one r square. Actually, Gm by r square is what? Acceleration due to gravity. Acceleration due to gravity. So you will get a new equation there, that is root, instead of Gm by capital R square, I am just writing small g, that is acceleration due to gravity, g r square by r plus h. So these two equations you can use. This one equation is another equation for orbital velocity. It is Gm by r plus h. That is, g is what? There the first, for the first equation, what is g is capital G, that is universal gravitational constant. Universal gravitational constant there. That is root Gm by r plus h. And the second equation you will get gr square by r plus h. That is, there g is what? Acceleration due to gravity. Acceleration due to gravity, that is g r square by r plus h. So that's about the first sub question. And the second sub question, that is B. Just read the question. The orbital velocity of the satellite of mass m is v0. What will be the orbital velocity of another satellite of mass 2m in the same orbit? So here, just see the equations. First equation and second equation. Is there any dependence on the mass of the satellite? Just you itself analyze. Mass of satellite is small m, and you can see that in both equations no small m is there. That means it is purely independent of the mass of the satellite. That means for both satellites, for satellites of mass m and satellite of mass 2m, they will have the same orbital velocity if they are placed at a same height, so that there is no dependence on mass of the satellite. So orbital velocity of satellite of mass m is VO. What will be the orbital velocity of another satellite of mass 2m in the same orbit? Same orbit means they are placed at same height. They will have same orbital velocity. So that's it for the second sub question. Now going for the fourth question, that is, under what condition will the equality A cross B and A dot B, that means here you should put the vector sign also. Vector head is a must. In the question it is not given, but still while you are writing in your answer sheet, you should write that vector sign also. That is, vector A cross B and vector A dot B will be equal in which condition? You all know that vector A cross B is equal to A B sine theta, and one n cap is there, that is which denotes the direction, and A dot B is equal to AB cos theta. So you want to find out the relation when it will become same, so that AB sine theta should be equal to AB cos theta. That means sine theta and cos theta, they are A and B. Modulus means your magnitude. Magnitude of A and B are both in both cases in same, because they are A and B, and that is equal to A and B in the other case also, cos theta also. But the only thing is that you want to find out sine theta should equal to cos theta, and it happens when theta is equal to 45 degree. So you itself find out what is the value of sine 45 and cos 45 there. So you can see sine 45 is equal to a particular value, that is what, 1 by root 2, and cos 45 is equal to also 1 by root 2. So that's it. So that at theta is equal to 45 degree, both the cases will be same, that is A cross B and A dot B will be same. Fourth question, second sub question. Two forces of 5 Newton and 7 Newton, that is F1 is equal to 5 Newton and F2 is equal to 7 Newton, are acting at a point. The angle between them is 60 degree. Find the resultant force. And for finding out the resultant force, F net or F resultant, you have an equation, that is F net is equal to, or F resultant is equal to F1 square plus F2 square plus 2 F1 F2 cos theta, where theta is the angle between the two forces. So here you have the forces. F1 is equal to 5 square plus 7 square plus 2 into 5 into 7 into cos, what is theta? 60 degree. So you have this thing, that is 25 plus 49 plus 2 into 5 into 7, and cos 60 is equal to 1 by 2. Cos 60 is 1 by 2, so that 2 and this 2 will be cancel out each other, and remaining is 35, and the remaining is what? 25 plus 49, it is 69, 70, 74, 104, 109. So root 109. So you will get an answer, that is something, answer 10.44 Newton. So its approximate value, that is 4 point something, that is 10.44 something. Okay, so this is the thing, that is to find out the resultant force there. So F net is equal to F1 square plus F2 square plus 2 F1 F2 cos theta. So that's it for the fourth question. And now coming to the Fifth one. Every SHM is periodic motion, but every periodic motion need not to be SHM. First sub-question, state whether the statement is true or false. Justify your answer with an example. Yes, the statement is true. That means every SHM, all SHM are periodic without doubt. But all periodic are SHM. This is not true. This is not true. For example, if you're taking a circular body or circular motion, that means you have a circular path and you have a body here. You have a body here. Okay. This body is moving in a circular path. It is moving like that. And you can see that after reaching this particular point, again the cycle is continuing, right? That means here it starts its journey. After 345 degree, it comes back to its correct position, the same initial position. Again the body is moving. That means after a particular time period, the process is continuing. So we call that particular process what? Periodic motion. Periodic motion. In the case of a simple pendulum also, you can see that the pendulum oscillates. After particular time period, it comes back to its correct position from where it starts, from where you are counting. That means it is continuing after the process. The procedure is continuing after a certain time period. And we call it as a periodic motion. Whereas SHM means it is a to and fro motion. SHM is a to and fro motion. That means with respect to a mean position, it should move to and fro. It should go to and fro. So that is the thing about the main difference between periodic motion and SHM. So here you can see in a to and fro motion also, after a certain time period, it is coming back. The particular procedure is continuing, and the particular procedure is repeating. So repetition is there. So we can call them as periodic motion, but it is not SHM, because it is always a to and fro motion. With respect to a particular mean position, it should oscillate like that. So in a circular motion, you can see that the body is moving and the motion of the body is known as periodic motion. A spring case, if you're taking a spring case, okay, and if you stretch the spring like this, so what will happen? If you stretch the spring like this, okay, and you release the spring, so what will happen? With respect to a particular mean position, the spring will move like this, to and fro. That means to and fro. So we can say that it is a to and fro motion, and it repeats. This particular procedure repeats within a short span, within a particular time period it will repeats. So that here in the case of a spring, you can say it is both SHM as well as periodic. So to and fro motion, but in the first case you can only say that it's a periodic motion. It is not SHM. In the first case it is not SHM. Why? Because it is not moving to and fro. It is having a periodic motion. After a certain time period it will repeat. So that's the first sub question. Second one, what do you mean by a seconds pendulum? A seconds pendulum is nothing but a pendulum whose time period is equal to 2 seconds. Its time period is equal to 2 seconds. Such a pendulum is known as what? Seconds pendulum. You just take a pendulum, you just oscillate that thing, take one time period, and if that time period is 2 seconds, then we can say that it is a seconds pendulum. So that is known as a seconds pendulum. So that's a second sub question. Now the third sub question is, what will be the period of oscillation if length of a seconds pendulum is halved? So to solve this particular question, you need to know the equation for time period. So T is equal to 2 pi root L by G, where L is the length of the pendulum, length of pendulum. G is acceleration due to gravity. While writing in your exam, you should completely write acceleration. Due to the space shortage, I am writing ACCL. So this is about acceleration due to gravity. So this equation is very, very, very important. That is T is equal to 2 pi root L by G. So now our question is that if one more question. So from the equation you will get to know that the time period is purely depend upon the length of the pendulum and acceleration due to gravity. Acceleration due to gravity, and the length of the pendulum is taken from the starting point of the string to the center of the bob. Bob is the spherical part of the pendulum, center of the bob. Okay, so here you can see 2 pi root L by G. It is said that if the length is halved, what will be the equation? T will be equal to what? 2 pi root L by 2G. Or if I am taking this root 2 outside or 2 outside, you will get 1 by root 2 pi root L by G. Is there any problem? No, I have only taken this 2 outside, this particular 2 outside. So 1 by root 2 pi root L by G. But what is this thing? This is a new time period, so I am just writing T1. Okay, what is this thing? It is the actual time period, right? Actual time period of a seconds pendulum, that is T by root 2. And actual time period of seconds pendulum is what? It is nothing but it is 2 seconds. So 2 by root 2, and you will get root 2 seconds. So this is the answer for the fifth question and the third sub question.